I'm Veronica Dudo in Washington, D.C. Tonight on EWTN News Nightly, Bridging the Atlantic. Centuries of royal tradition arrive at the White House, weaving old alliances into a new age. King of the Hill, the British monarch, stands before a joint meeting of Congress, marking a historic diplomatic milestone. Market rupture, President Trump's blockade holds firm as a key member exits the global oil alliance. Plus, holy pitch. Faith finds its field as Seminarians trade vestments for jerseys in a historic match. These stories and more tonight.
From EWTN, the Global Catholic Network, this is EWTN News Nightly.
Thank you for being with us on the feast day of St. Peter Chanel, priest and first martyr of Oceania. Our top story tonight, President Donald Trump praises the unique bond and special relationship the U.S. and Great Britain have shared over the centuries. He delivered remarks while welcoming Britain's King Charles III and Queen Camilla to an elaborate state ceremony. The King's visit comes as America celebrates 250 years of independence from the Crown. But it also arrives as relations between both nations are feeling the strain of the war in Iran, tariffs, and uncertainty over NATO. White House correspondent Owen Jensen begins our team coverage.
Veronica, President Donald Trump discussed in his speech today the deep roots and cherished bond the U.S. shares with the U.K., going back long before the American Revolution, and how both countries once saved the free world during World War II. And the president added how he hopes America's special relationship with Great Britain will always remain that way. President Donald Trump makes light of the rainy weather that kicked off the official state visit for King Charles.
Thank you very much, everybody. What a beautiful British day this is.
The arrival ceremony on the south lawn of the White House featured military bands and an inspection of the troops, where we witnessed President Trump and King Charles pass closely by.
Like our nation itself,
President Trump says, in the century since we won our independence, Americans have had no closer friends than the British.
we speak the same language, we hold the same values, and together our warriors have defended the same extraordinary civilization under twin banners of red, white, and blue.
Top dignitaries from the U.S. and U.K. attended the arrival ceremony, including Vice President J.D. Vance and Secretary of State Marco Rubio. President Trump also remembered with fondness Queen Elizabeth. He called her a very special woman who was very greatly missed, and he recalled how much his mother loved the royal family.
I also remember her saying very clearly, Charles, look, young Charles, he's so cute. It's my mother. My mother had a crush on Charles. Can you believe it?
President Trump says the wounds of the Revolutionary War healed into the most cherished friendship.
Your Majesties, thank you once again for making this important visit. We are so honored.
King Charles did not address the crowd during the arrival ceremony, as other world leaders have done. Moments later, both couples stood on the White House balcony, overlooking the troops on the South Lawn. A military jet flyover capped off the ceremony. Then, both couples walked through the Rose Garden to the Oval Office. First Lady Melania Trump and Queen Camilla also took part in the educational event with students held at the White House Tennis Pavilion. Tonight, King Charles returns here to 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue for a formal state dinner in the East Room. Now, in the past, these dinners used to be held under a tent on the South Lawn, and that's one of the main reasons President Trump is pushing for an enclosed White House ballroom. At the White House, Owen Jensen, EWTN News Nightly.
As part of the four-day royal visit, King Charles III addressed a joint meeting of Congress. He is only the second British monarch to ever do so, following his mother, Queen Elizabeth II, in 1991. Let's continue our team coverage and check in with Capitol Hill correspondent Eric Rosales. Eric, you had a seat inside the press gallery. I'm sure security was tight.
Oh, security was very tight. Good evening, Veronica. They were not only checking our tickets, but also our badges very closely. Now, the address was pretty short. It only lasted about 30 minutes, but the historic message will last much, much longer. As the King expressed support following Saturday's shooting incident at the White House Correspondents' Dinner, he also talked about unity, highlighting of the reconciliation and renewal of the U.S.-UK alliance over the last 250 years.
Our alliance cannot rest on past achievements or assume that foundational principles simply endure. As my Prime Minister said last month, ours is an indispensable partnership. We must not disregard everything that has sustained us for the last 80 years. Instead, we must build on it.
Just prior to the King speaking to Congress, he held a photo op with leaders of both the House and the Senate.
Mr. Speaker, Their Majesties King Charles III and Queen Camilla.
He then walked into the House chamber accompanied by long applause. During his speech, the King also focused on shared values between the U.S. and UK, reaffirming a commitment to global security amid the conflict in Iran. You may recall UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer refused to offer substantial military assistance.
Whatever our differences, whatever disagreements we may have, we stand united in our commitment to uphold democracy, to protect all our people from harm, and to salute the courage of those who daily risk their lives in the service of our countries.
And finally, he touched on the importance of protecting the environment and, quote, nature's own economy.
Our generation must decide how to address the collapse of critical natural systems, which threatens far more than the harmony and essential diversity of nature. We ignore at our peril the fact that these natural systems, in other words, nature's own economy, provide the foundation for our prosperity and our national security.
Now, the King really got vocal reactions from Democrats in the chamber when he said, quote, America's words carry weight and meaning as they have since independence, and the actions of this great nation matter even more. I did speak with a number of lawmakers afterwards, both Republicans and Democrats claim that the King was speaking directly to President Donald Trump, while Republicans pointed out that the King also said actions of this great nation matter more, meaning President Trump is on track and should continue to fight to make America great again. All lawmakers agree that the King was witty. One of his jokes was, America is celebrating 250 years, or as we like to call it, Veronica, just yesterday. Back to you.
A historic day. Thanks so much, Eric. Today, the U.S. boarded another commercial ship suspected of heading to Iran. U.S. Central Command posted this video on X saying U.S. Marines boarded the ship in the Arabian Sea. It was released after it was searched. Yesterday, Iran offered to open the Strait of Hormuz if the U.S. ended its blockade. But President Trump has not shown any interest in accepting that deal. Joining us now is Colonel Josh McConkey, author of the Pulitzer Prize-nominated book, Be the Weight Behind the Spear, and a serving U.S. Air Force colonel. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me on the show today.
The negotiations seem to be stalled. Are we heading for a protracted on and off regional war, or is it too soon to tell?
Well, right now, Iran is just playing a game of chicken. And so they're holding the world economy hostage. They have figured out that they don't need a nuclear weapon to do that. With 20% of the oil of the entire world that passes through that strait, they're putting a stranglehold on that. And the typically 130 to 150 ships that get through that strait each day, it's essentially down to zero now. So they're really just hoping that we tire of this and that the economic impact is too high. But at the end of the day, we can't let them have a nuclear weapon. That just can't be in the cards.
What levers does the U.S. military have to break the deadlock, and is the U.S. military force the most likely solution?
So there's different instruments of power that you use in these types of situations. When you talk at national security, it's referred to as the dime. So diplomatic, informational, military, which tends to be that last resort, and economic. So right now, the blockade of the ports in Iran are applying 3 out of those 4. And if we need to use the military again, we certainly can. It's shown operationally very successful in destroying, much of their military, their leadership, their mine-laying capabilities, but not all of it. And applying this pressure, about 15 to 20% of their entire GDP flows through that port, and the majority of their oil exports. So, this is going to be very painful for the Iranians if they choose to wait this out. So it's really a game of chicken right now.
Do you think that could be the strategy, because the rest of the world could potentially find other ways to find oil and gas? While it can be expensive for citizens, eventually Iran would be economically cut off, and then there's talk about the IRGC guards not being able to be paid, and then potentially more chaos for the government. Where do things stand with that, and also global diplomacy?
So Iran is really panicking right now. They have overplayed that hand. They're now appealing to the Russians to get involved internationally and try to apply some pressure. But right now, the United States is holding those cards as long as we maintain that blockade and hold firm on the zero nuclear weapon stance, which is non-negotiable. That was the entire reason this started to begin with. You can't cave on that now. Allowing Iran to have a nuclear weapon in that region would be just such a grievous mistake. It could potentially just cause millions of lives later on.
Colonel Josh McConkey, thank you so much.
Thank you.
The United Arab Emirates has officially announced its withdrawal from OPEC, ending decades of membership in the oil-producing bloc. In a statement from Abu Dhabi, officials cited a shift towards national energy priorities and a desire for greater production flexibility. The departure comes at a critical time for the global market as the ongoing conflict in Iran continues to impact regional shipping and supply chains. The exit is set to take effect on May 1st. Tensions between Senate Majority Leader John Thune and House Speaker Mike Johnson are escalating after the Speaker announced House Republicans will take up a brand new funding bill for the Department of Homeland Security and not pass the one sent over by the Senate.
We have a modified version that I think is going to be much better for both chambers. Doesn't change most of the substance, but it makes sure that we're not going to orphan 2 of the primary agencies of DHS. We have to make sure that immigration law is enforced and that the border is safe and secure.
Bring the bipartisan Senate-passed bill to the House floor today, and it would fund the Department of Homeland Security in its entirety, with the exception of ICE and the violent Republican mass deportation machine.
We are now 73 days into the partial government shutdown. There is renewed urgency to fund DHS, which oversees the Secret Service. Given the recent shooting at the White House Correspondents' Dinner, DHS only has enough money to pay its over 200,000 workers until April 30th. The Justice Department has indicted former FBI Director James Comey again. This time, the investigation seems to stem from a social media photo showing seashells arranged as the numbers 8647. The Secret Service interviewed Comey last May about the post after administration officials accused him of advocating for the assassination of Donald Trump, the 47th president. Comey deleted the post, saying he didn't think it would be associated with violence. This new case comes only months after a separate and unrelated indictment was dismissed. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis is centering his legislative agenda on a new congressional redistricting plan this week. The proposal seeks to add 4 Republican-leaning seats, which could offset projected Democratic gains in states like Virginia. Some GOP members have expressed concern the strategy could face legal or political hurdles. Observers say the outcome will signal the governor's current standing with national party leadership. In the Virginia redistricting fight, the state Supreme Court has dealt Democrats a blow. It refused to halt a lower court order that bars officials from certifying last week's redistricting referendum. In order to approve the controversial proposal, 4 out of the 7 justices need to get a majority to either block or approve the plan. No word yet on when the ruling will come down. Parts of the central U.S. are cleaning up today after a round of violent storms. In parts of Missouri, heavy rains led to overflowing creeks and flooded roadways. In the upper Midwest, high winds damaged homes in Wisconsin and Michigan. Some were even trapped in their homes by downed trees.
He texted me, he was like, "Is this your house?" And I was like, "Yeah, that is. Are you messing with me?" And he's like, "No." I got a little teary-eyed. This is my first home, first time homeowner, and Yeah, it hit me because I'm like, that's a lot of damage.
Meanwhile, Oklahoma and North Texas were hit by tornadoes. At least 2 people were killed. Homes and infrastructure sustained heavy damage. We have a lot more still to come on EWTN News Nightly, Life on the Line. One of the most closely watched moral debates in the UK Parliament comes to a close for now. Why the debate over assisted suicide isn't over yet. And after 125 years of caring for cancer patients free of charge, New York officials say a group of Dominican sisters are breaking the law just by following their faith. The UK has blocked a bill that would have allowed assisted suicide for mentally competent adults with less than 6 months left to live. After passing the House of Commons in 2024, the bill faced prolonged debate in the House of Lords, where it stalled and then failed last week. However, advocates say they will reintroduce the bill. Meanwhile, pro-life voices say this is a win for the UK and the rest of Europe. Here to discuss this latest setback on assisted suicide and end-of-life legislation in the UK and around the world is Alex Schadenberg, the Executive Director of the Euthanasia Prevention Coalition. Alex, thanks so much for joining me today.
It's always important to talk about these topics, so I'm very glad to be with you.
The House of Commons in England passed an end-of-life bill, but the unelected House of Lords managed to stop it. How did they do it, and what happens next?
Well, okay, so what happened is with the House of Lords, they actually did what they're supposed to do. They debated the bill, and the government actually expected them to just have a short debate, have it go to committee, and then have it pass through. And in fact, they did have a thorough debate of the bill. So they actually never voted on the bill because of the debate time that they were asking for made it go to the point where Parliament has run out of time. There's the throne speech from the King coming up, and therefore the bill has died based on timing of the order paper.
This proposal is expected to come back for another try. Do you think it will eventually pass, or is it losing momentum?
It's definitely at this moment losing momentum. I think it has a lot to do with the fact that it was recently defeated also in Scotland. Now, we have to give you some context. The bill in Scotland was originally passed by 70 to 56. Then it went into committee. Then they had the final vote on it, and it was defeated. So this is the same group of people who first passed it and then defeated it.
What is your biggest takeaway from the vote in the UK?
Well, when I look at the UK, the point was is that when the issue of euthanasia, so what is euthanasia? Euthanasia is when a doctor, or in my country of Canada, a nurse practitioner, intentionally kills you. This is not about giving you lethal poison and you take it yourself, which is what happens in the US with assisted suicide. This is them actually killing you. But when that debate actually happens and people get a chance to actually discuss it openly, you realize pretty quickly that the support for it just starts disappearing, because the euthanasia movement bases their big push on emotions. They want us to fear. They tell us stories of people who were going through difficult health conditions, and the answer for them was killing them. But they wouldn't say it that way, of course. So I see that when you get this proper debate, things start turning around. We have right now in Canada a committee looking at euthanasia for mental illness alone. Mental illness alone. That's insane. But what's going on in Canada is insane. This whole committee is starting to reverse in direction because we're actually discussing what does this actually mean. So you actually have a committee for the first time that's actually willing to discuss this openly, and the euthanasia lobby is getting very nervous because people are starting to back off from their support.
Alex Schadenberg, thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
For 125 years, a group of Dominican sisters have provided free care for terminal cancer patients without a problem, but now they're going to court. The Dominican Sisters of Hawthorne are challenging a New York law saying it violates their right to freely exercise their religion, as well as Catholic teachings about gender identity. Joining us now is David Eubing, Director of Communications at the Catholic Benefit Association. Thank you so much for coming on today.
You're welcome.
Now, could you explain to our viewers what is happening about the state law as it affects the sisters?
So the Dominican Sisters of Hawthorne have been providing palliative care, hospice care to people with cancer for about 125 years in New York. And about 2 years ago, the state passed a law that requires caregivers for long-term care facilities to place patients with people who claim they're the opposite sex than their biological sex, to use their preferred pronouns, and also to take a curriculum which uses this gender ideology to tell them how they should act. And they have to pass this curriculum and take the curriculum in order to be licensed as a caregiver.
So the sisters are pushing back, and as this unfolds, is there a legal precedent that could work in their favor?
Sure. So they're making constitutional claims. So that's why the suit is filed in federal court. And so their claims are First Amendment and 14th Amendment. The First Amendment, a lot of people are familiar with, but that has to do with your religious rights. So the ability to not have your practice of the faith impinged upon by the state. And then the second claim is the 14th Amendment, and that has to do with equal treatment before the law. So in this case, the Church of Scientology, the Church of Christ Scientist, they're different. They are exempt from this law. And so that creates an unequal treatment before the law there.
If the sisters win in court, what would that mean for religious orders in New York and throughout the United States?
So it depends on how the court rules. The court could say, well, only the plaintiffs, the people that are filing this suit, receive relief from this law. So it could be just limited to the Dominican Sisters of Hawthorne. But if the state wins or loses, they might appeal. And if they appeal to a court of appeals, that would be the next level. And then after that is the Supreme Court. It could pan out that the New York law is struck down.
Well, we'll certainly continue to follow this. David Ubing, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thanks, Veronica.
Up next on EWTN News Nightly, Faith in Play. Learn how seminarians in Rome spread the joy of the gospel through friendly competition. Spreading the joy of the gospel can take many forms, including friendly competition. Recently, seminaries in Rome hit the soccer field to share a moment of community and to celebrate their vocations. EWTN Vatican journalist Zofia Chubek spoke with them about sport, prayer, and consecrating their lives to God.
An international group of seminarians living and studying in Rome have gone from cassock to kickoff at this year's third edition of the Coppa di San Paolo, or St. Paul's Cup. It's a soccer tournament for vocations meant to celebrate the joy of vocational life and show the uplifting message of the gospel in the fun of the game.
It's actually hard to explain the first moment, but it was like a really strong desire, pull towards the Lord in the Eucharist.
A priest gets to consecrate a piece of bread into the body of Christ is incredible, and to be part of that is incredible.
At the start of April, Pope Leo XIV announced that his prayer intention for this month are priests in crisis.
Good Father, teach us as a community to care for our priests.
He encouraged all faithful to support those who so often support us. Earlier in the year, in light of the Winter Olympics, he wrote a letter called Life in Abundance on the value of sport. The urge to pray for priests and the good of sport came together on the grounds of San Leonardo Murialdo in Rome.
Nearly 100 seminarians, including priests and laymen from 9 different colleges in Rome, started with a moment of prayer led by the rector of the Beda College, Canon Marcus Holden, before taking it straight to the pitch.
We're in Rome and we experience this beautiful Catholicity. And so we've drawn teams from different colleges representing different parts of the world, really to come together in friendship. A lot of these guys study together, but to play together is important as well.
The vet, because I'm always trying to get my brothers to use their bodies as well as their minds when studying and prayer. A bit of physical running around, I think is really good for you.
The event was hosted by the Pontifical Beda College and the Pontifical Scots College. Rector of the Scots College, Father Mark Cassidy, explained why the inter-seminary tournament can be an example of evangelizing through sport.
So, we have to use every way of meeting people where they are. Sport is one, music is another, culture is another. People won't just come to church and be encountered. We also have to go and encounter them where they are, and sport is a great vehicle for doing that.
Aligned with Good Shepherd Sunday, a day dedicated to the prayer for priestly and religious vocations, this football tournament aims to offer witness to fraternity and vocational life within the church. In Rome, Zofia Tubak for EWTN News Nightly.
And in case you were curious, the Legionnaires of Christ won the tournament and took home the St. Paul Cup. We thank you for watching tonight. Remember, you can follow us on social media, Facebook, X, YouTube, and Instagram at EWTN News Nightly. I'm Veronica Dudo. Good night and God bless.